IT Pro TV, binge-worthy learning for IT teams. Why is it binge-worthy? It's learning presented in an engaging and entertaining talk show format that beats voice-over PowerPoint snooze fests. Watch over 3,300 hours of content in their on-demand library, on your desktop, on the go, or in the comfort of your own living room. IT Pro TV is IT training you and your team actually want to watch, which means a better return on your learning investment. Get started with IT Pro TV for Teams by visiting itpro.tv/Security Weekly and start a 7-day free trial and get 30% off standard or premium IT Pro TV memberships using the code SECWeekly30. Today's determined attackers easily bypass even the most advanced network defenses. Trying to ramp up staff to detect their backdoors can cost thousands of dollars and take months, even years. With Active Countermeasures AI Hunter, we enable junior analysts to detect even the most advanced backdoors in a matter of hours. Sign up for a demo and purchase our product today by visiting activecountermeasures.com/PSW. Active Countermeasures. Make every analyst a hunter. Endgame automates the hunt for both known and never-before-seen adversaries in enterprise networks. Built on unique knowledge on the adversary's tools, techniques, and tactics, Endgame's centrally managed agent prevents, detects, and responds to advanced adversaries in the earliest stages of the kill chain without prior knowledge. Endgame. Automate the hunt.
Soon.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Larry and I are talking about... I was showing off my new tactical pen because a few years ago, I decided I wanted to carry a pen with me at all times. And I wanted a tactical pen because they're really cool. And the model I had actually was falling apart. The clip, the belt clip, or pocket clip.
from a name brand.
Yeah, it was from a name brand, and it fell apart, and the parts weren't serviceable, which is kind of my issue with some of these my pocket knife and my pens. This one's got a glass breaker, and it's a pen. I want to say it was less than $20 on Amazon.
That's pretty damn good.
And I like it. And then, Larry, you were talking about taking notes and stuff. Which
yeah, bullet journal. Bullet journal. So you're doing field notes.
Field notes, which I keep in my pocket. I think, Adrian, do you carry a field notes? And we were talking at InfoSec World. You broke out it looked like a field notes journal, right?
Moleskine.
Moleskine. There you go.
Yeah, Moleskine.
Yeah. Awesome.
I switch back and forth.
Yeah.
I'm not that brand loyal, but the Moleskine hold up really well for me. Some of them fall apart because it's always in my back pocket.
Right.
Yep. So that said, I've thanks to some of the folks in Guardians, Mike Poor specifically, I've moved into the Bujo realm, the bullet journal realm, and for me, bullet journal is really flexible in that I can do whatever the hell I want.
An app?
No, it's all manual. There's an app for it, and I looked for an app for it, and I realized that there wasn't a good app for it, and I went manual, and it's all manual note taking and how you deal with manual notes.
Okay, so it's like a process for note taking.
It's a process for note taking, and it's a structured approach. But the thing that I find is that for me day to day, the normal bullet journal stuff doesn't work for me. It does to a point. So I do my own modified version of that, and then when I went and taught 617, I did Bujo for 617 specifically for that in a different notebook for notes for that, and I applied a structured approach to taking notes, and it worked out beautifully. And it's really about teaching your brain a structured approach to taking notes to some stuff in a second set of journals. I'm currently using a lined journal because that's what I've got, but a dotted journal is better. And you can get creative as you want or not as creative as you want. And I use a very simple set of tools. It's 5 highlighters and 1 marker. And one pen marker of a specific pen width.
Sure.
And then I have a notebook. And it's a notebook of a format that works for me to carry just about everywhere.
Yeah.
And depending on where I'm going, I'll carry 1 or I'll carry 2. One's for like miscellaneous crap, and the other one's for the structured day-to-day. Like when I sit down in the morning, I'm like, I've got these things that I need to accomplish today. Write them down, and when I get them done, I finish them. And then I look back to the other days. I'm like, oh shit, I didn't finish that yesterday. I need to do that today, and then I can move those month to month. And it's a whole thing.
Yeah, and everyone has their method. So I carry the field notes just if wherever I am, I have a pen and a notepad. If I get ideas for segments, if I get business ideas for products or whatever, I need to be able to write those down because I found I was actually forgetting some of those ideas, which is bad.
And I saw this one is like you're supposed to put the notebook next to your bed so you wake up in the middle of the night. And then I saw that XKCD or whatever it was that like you put the notebook next to your bed and you wake up the next morning it's like squirrel socks. I'm like what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. But then for to-do lists, one thing, and I've been home on vacation this week, as many of you probably haven't seen me in RSA. It was my kid's vacation from school, right? So I stayed home from work with the kids.
I didn't stay home from work, but I did 2 days.
I came in today just to do shows. I am going to be here tomorrow, mostly hiding and spending some time with Joe, one of our salespeople, and working on my presentation. But you know, being at home, I wanted to make sure I had a place to write down notes. And then also what we did at home, because first day of vacation, my wife and I are talking about all these things we want to accomplish, right? Like all these things we got to do.
Yeah, we want to go to the zoo. We want to go to...
And not just like things we want to do.
We want to take out the trash and we want to put up these shelves.
Right? So... Kanban, however you say it. Is it Kanban? Kanban boards, right? So it's to do, doing, and done.
Yep.
And I said to Shannon, I'm like, we should try and do Trello. And so we set up we register our accounts with Trello, which is an app, and you can get it on your browser or your phone.
Yep.
And the default one, board that you get, right, is to do, doing, and done. I'm like, this could be a good way for us to organize our tasks. And so we wrote down all the to-dos and the doing and then the done, and she was adding stuff and I was adding stuff. And I thought that was a great way to manage it at home. Want to try that here maybe at Security Weekly and see how those go. Also for developers, if you look into DevOps processes,
Kanban is great.
Kanban's great, but it's more than just to do, doing, done. I didn't think that was detailed enough, and they had another one that was like...
And that's why these systems... Well, when I say...
It's different, right?
You move to a non-digital system. You can customize that as much as you want. For example, my bullet journal is that every day I start a new journal, and I put a list of things that I want to accomplish, and I will add to that as the day goes on. But every day on the list, I try to put 3 things on there. Every day. And that is drink water...
Yes.
Stretch and practice my karate.
Sure.
Every day.
Yeah.
And I put that right across the top or for the day. And when I actually get to a recently decent completion, like the drink water, like I know that I can go between 64 and 1,000 ounces of water a day. And when I get to a reasonable completion, I highlight it in blue because water's blue. And when I get to stretch, like that's painful, so it's red.
Right.
And when I get to practice karate, it's green, and I highlight it when it's complete.
Yeah, so sometimes we'll do the analog version.
Yeah,
just to
the analog
because it's easy.
The analog is ultimately customizable,
right? And then we'll try and find the digital solution that works. And so at home or even here in the office, we've tried analog solutions, and then said, "What if we try and make this digital?" Anyway, some tips for our listeners on task management.
Me thinking about that, being the pseudo prepper that I am, is that great, there's a digital solution, but bring that back to analog.
Right.
Being analog is also important. Having that continuous redundancy
of your WAF,
right, Adrian?
Of your WAF.
Adrian's muted of some variety.
I'm still just very stuck on this idea of what is a tactical pen? Writing more tactical.
It writes, but you can kill people with it.
Right. You know what it is? I figured out it's a pen that looks cool.
It's a pen that can break glass if you need to.
And it has like a glass breaker on it. I know. Thanks for asking that, Kevin.
I'm here to ask the really important questions.
Questions. I want to talk about my favorite story this week that I want to get to is Microsoft builds its own custom Linux OS to secure IoT devices. Now, there's a lot of technical...
This is relevant to my interests on so many levels.
I mean, first is the obvious, like, Microsoft and Linux in the same headlines.
Yep.
Like, did we ever think we'd see the day? Something like 40% of Azure instances are actually Linux. Microsoft is supporting Linux and Ubuntu in the operating system. Did we ever see this day? Now... Microsoft is building a secure architecture for IoT devices that is based, on Linux, what I found the most compelling statement from this article, and you can read the whole architecture, and I think it really relates back to the interviews that we did relating to UEFI.
Yes.
And that whole model, and how if we applied that to IoT devices, we'd have more secure IoT devices. On the surface, it looks like that's what Microsoft is trying to accomplish. Therefore, I applaud the efforts, and I think it's fantastic. The devil's in the details. We'll see what the adoption rate is. But the most compelling thing for me was this statement. Each chip includes custom silicon security technology from Microsoft, inspired by 15 years of experience in learning from Xbox to secure the new class of MCUs and devices they power. And when I think back about doing this show this is our 14th year, and how many stories we've covered related to security news that have to do with someone attacking or hacking into the Xbox platform or even any other gaming platform, they're very few and far between. So therefore, and I want to take this to our illustrious panel today, I think that this is a really good thing and could be promising.
So I would say few and far between, but mostly because we've been more concerned on enterprise. And I think there's been plenty of stories about, hacking PS3 and Game Boy and
I think their goals are different, right?
I agreed. I think their goals are different, and
like goals like I want to be able to copy a game or basically cheat the system so I don't have to pay for something.
Exactly, and we talk about in 617 course in the recent update about Nintendo and Amiibo.
What's Amiibo?
Amiibo?
I have a Switch.
So it will work on the Switch. Amiibo is, I don't know which game it is, but it effectively is like the Disney Infinity type of thing.
Yep.
Where you have like a physical thing.
Yeah.
Where you plop on a thing and it does something in game. And
what was
the other RFID thing?
Exactly. It's RFID based.
What was the other thing that did that? It wasn't Infinity. It was
Skylanders.
Thank you. Whoever said that. Yes.
Yep.
So it's not like Skylanders and Disney Infinity, because in most first-party Nintendo games, you can use amiibos just to get you like extra items and new things. So it's not like you're playing as those characters. Like they're trying to get you to collect a bunch of them because certain ones do certain things in different games.
Correct.
So like I was
Skylanders
playing
was
Mario
the same
Kart
thing
the other day, and they're like, oh no, you got to have this kind of amiibo to be able to, get cool stuff in this game, and I don't have any of those, so they're trying to get me to buy them.
Yeah, but
what if you could emulate all of those?
Yes, Skylanders was the same thing. When Braden, my oldest son, and I were playing Skylanders, we'd run into a situation that Adrian described where like you needed a specific character to get to the next level in the game. So like you'd have to go to the store or Amazon or wherever and go buy that character, like Adrian said, to get to that next level. And so what you're saying is like hacking is, can I emulate that character?
Yes.
To be able, yes.
So
only fire-based Skylanders can enter this area.
Correct.
and the failure for those the Amiibo stuff is that in order to read the Amiibo characters, you needed a specific key. The problem is that key was distributed on billions of devices.
It's the same key
worldwide, same key.
Okay.
So yeah, you pull apart the Game Boy Advance firmware, and you can pull the key, which then you can read the devices, which you can then turn back into emulation. Because
I think that speaks to Microsoft's architecture in if you can build into the chip the encryption technology such that the firmware is encrypted. It's not impossible.
Yep,
sure.
It's not impossible,
you can
but it's
solder something on.
It's significantly more difficult.
Right. Like in that situation, you got to solder something onto the board, potentially listen to the communications between chips to pull. I mean, Travis Goodspeed has written articles on that. On the lower end hardware that moves much slower, you can potentially grab those keys and sniff them off the chips.
Yep.
In the Xbox or gaming console, I think that stuff moves way too fast.
So
and hardware reverse engineers, correct me if I'm wrong, it makes it much more challenging to grab that key.
Higher speed
hardware, right?
Absolutely, and even interacting with the chips at higher speed is significantly more difficult. The big one, for me, it's interesting. The person that I said that of the 325 user accounts, so many of them were domain admins. They said, "Do you game?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I haven't gamed in years because I don't have time."
Right.
The best I can do is Minecraft, and it's been probably 2 years since I've logged into Minecraft.
Have you played Fortnite? Anyone played Fortnite?
Nope.
Anyone?
Nope.
Kevin?
I've heard of it.
Adrian, yeah. I played it. It's very much took me back to playing online multiplayer Half-Life or
Doom
or Quake.
Unreal Tournament?
Shit.
Yeah.
Unreal Tournament.
Except, like, I don't know if there's that many differences. It really is just that, except now I'm old, and my skills are very much on the keyboard playing those games, not on the controller.
Wait, what platform is this on?
Xbox. So I died a lot. I did get one kill, and it wasn't with a gun, it was with an axe, and I just like ran up to the person, and they couldn't shoot me because I was on top of them just hitting them with an axe. So I have one kill on Fortnite, which is awesome.
Xbox out, PS3 out. Yeah.
Anyway,
so
where is my phone making those noises? Oh, right here. Sorry. I apologize to our listeners. Normally I mute that. Anyway, next story.
It's been a long time since like that happened.
Next story.
Off-topic stories of the week.
You want to go to the off-topic? We should save that one for the end. Let's save that one for the end.
Yeah.
So here's one for Facebook. You want to go Facebook?
I was hoping the Drupal one.
Another critical flaw found in Drupal, discovered by the Drupal security team. It was a cross-site scripting vulnerability, which I thought was interesting that all of the headlines were talking about, oh my God, there's another Drupal vulnerability. Now, the previous ones, I don't remember the details, but I want to say they were more critical in my mind than a cross-site scripting vulnerability. However, the Drupal security team has now found this, and it's being evangelized. We can talk about CMS security. It would likely be a very lengthy conversation about the lack of security controls in content management systems. But
so I hadn't heard of this one, and the big one is that the ones we talked about in the past, Drupal with Drupal, was that it was a high critical. Holy shit! Go pat your shit. And then after like 3 weeks, they raised the criticality of the vulnerability because if you haven't patched your shit by now.
Yeah, it's really bad. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and they went back and did that. Now that there's this one on top of that, so that's pretty serious.
I don't know. What decision?
Well, 9% of the market with Drupal.
So, what's your decision process as an enterprise in choosing a CMS platform, and how does security play into that? Would be my question. And I think that your choices are really friggin' crappy. Yeah. And include Drupal.
They're all shitty.
Like Drupal, WordPress, Cold Fusion. What else is out there for CMS that I'm missing?
There's a bunch of others of lower market value.
Joomla.
Yep, Joomla.
Thank you.
Joomla. Yep.
And they're all pretty bad.
So we've done some research on this, and apparently it's more expensive. But if you do the hosted WordPress, like that stuff never gets hacked. Like they've got all kinds of extra layered defenses in there and stuff like that. But it's way more expensive than doing like self-hosted or like super cheap hosted.
So
WordPress.
Adrian, worth the money you pay for it.
It's funny you mentioned that, Adrian. We are largely hosted on WordPress. Now, granted, today we don't collect information from our WordPress sites that would be anything, we don't collect any information from our users. We basically use it to push information out.
Yep.
The only accounts that we have are our own that I can very closely monitor on a manual basis and basically have a pretty good level of security. And we have been hacked before on WordPress several years ago, and we talked about it on the show. But what's interesting is I just recently moved to a hosted WordPress environment, WP Engine.
Yep.
They include, like Adrian said, a lot of those security controls. I think more importantly, what attracted me to the platform, and it's maybe a couple of $100 a month. So, Adrian, there is a cost, but for most modern businesses, I don't think that's a huge cost. The big thing for me was they include a dev, a QA, and a production version of your site. So, you want to test out that new plugin, Larry? You can put it. You can put it in dev. They give you in built into their platform. You can say, I don't want this instance like on the internet. Like block all the bots and only trust this one IP address to my dev instance. I can put all those sketchy plugins on there. I can test them out. If it works, I can then push it to production. I can roll back. I have backups. And to me, even if the underlying architecture of WordPress itself, as we've covered on the show, has systemic security issues, the hosted platforms like Adrian are saying, give me that ability to be able to manage it. And I think that's a strategy that businesses and enterprises need to employ today when they choose such systems.
Yep. We've talked about this before. We take a different approach. We have an internal only access over VPN WordPress site that we publish to, which updates via static HTML to
and there's a plugin you use for that?
Yep.
Sure.
Yep, absolutely. There's a plugin that exports, puts it in disk. We have a cron job that pushes that once an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, another thing we found with research is with WordPress, at least, it's very rarely an issue in the core WordPress. You know, it's always like Dave's spinning animated GIFs plugin or
because
crap like that.
Yep, because there's no validation for anybody that submits code.
But there's also no separation of processes.
Right.
Like there's no concept of like a root process versus a userland process in WordPress. Like
it's a WordPress process.
If you can execute code in WordPress, you can execute code in WordPress, and there's no separation, which I think is a fundamental security flaw in the WordPress platform itself. However, also a very similar model, and when we look at Chrome, and we've got a couple of stories about Chrome, one being that, again, Microsoft, you're drunk, go home. It's the whole new Microsoft. Now, I say that to be funny, but I think in terms of Microsoft, it's a very smart move on their part that they're playing in lots of different waters, one of them being Linux, one of them also being in the Chrome web browser, and they've created a plugin for Chrome that provides an additional layer of security to say, hey, you're visiting a bad site, which is interesting. Now, the other news article about Chrome is that some ridiculous...
Great segue.
Ridiculous number of extensions in Chrome. So 2 million users installed malicious ad blockers from the Chrome store. So
which story is
story number 12 is that in the category of ad blocking plugins for Chrome, 2 million people have installed an ad blocker that is in fact malicious. And Jason, you know, we've covered on Hack Naked News very much almost every month this year that Chrome has had issues, and Google as an extension has issues with controlling in basically controlling what is a malicious plugin versus a non-malicious plugin.
And me thinking about Chrome, that this was very much to me the Apple walled garden, in that if you wanted to run code on Apple, that you need to have some level of
still maintain that Apple has done the best job in maintaining an environment where users can develop code and it's vetted.
Vetted with air quotes, right?
Every other application we've seen of that, I feel like Chrome Web Store, the Android Store, the WordPress add-ons, and most other kind of add-on type systems suffer from Kodi is another example. A lot of the malicious Kodi extensions, will be there's no vetting process for that. Apple's doing a great job. Everyone else kind of like falls by the wayside in terms of validating these add-ons. And now, Kodi's one thing, right? It's an open source project. Like, I get it. WordPress is another
different
thing.
Environment.
The Kodis and the WordPresses of the world are not Google. Google puts this browser out, makes available a framework. Google puts Android out. And a lot of these add-ons are malicious with very little protection. So much so, in the Chrome sense, that Microsoft has stepped in and said, well, we can provide a plugin that helps you be more secure. Like, all this just like blows my mind, dude. Blows my mind.
And, you know, I think about that, and, you know, you talk about Google putting out Android, and that I will never own an Android device that is not provided by Google. I will never own an Android device that's not third-party, unless maybe it's Amazon, because because I trust myself. But if you think about the Android platform, it is arguably the shittiest security platform on the market.
It is.
And it's not because the Android platform is insecure in itself. It's the third-party apps.
Well, so much so that, like, Samsung makes great phones.
Yeah.
And I've had Samsung phones. The problem is Samsung limits you and installs all that crapware by default. Then I'm like, yeah, no, I'm gonna. So I started with Samsung. I was like, yeah, I'm frustrated. I still don't have as much control as I'd like, so therefore I'm going to go to the Google platform, and I've got the Pixel XL as my phone today.
So I'm not a bigot. I have my day-to-day driver is an Apple phone because I really like the interface and it does all the things I want. I do have Android devices. I have OnePlus to do Android things because Android, and I have an Android-based Kindle Fire HD8 that I got this Christmas.
Amazon has kind of bastardized the Android platform, so much so that I want to get rid of my Fire devices in favor of other ones.
Don't do that. Just put the Android Play stuff, the Google Play stuff on it. It's easy.
Yeah, I've done that.
And I've done that, and for me, it's done everything I wanted to do. I wanted to play. I want that tablet to play media, and I wanted to do Facebook, and I wanted to do. That's about it.
Yeah,
and that's it. So
I've run into trouble with it though, and this is my use case right here. But
yeah,
you get a hold of a Kindle device. It's Android. You get Google Play working on it, but it's your testing device that you're using for. I just woke up Google device over here. Anyhow, you're doing a mobile pen test and you're trying to use a Kindle device for it.
Oh, you don't want to do that. Don't do that. Yeah, you need an Android device for that.
Yeah, that was a problem.
Yeah, I use a Kindle device for what it's meant for. Like
as a user,
Google device.
Yeah. So, Jason, if we say Google like a bunch of times, will it hear us?
No, because I've got you guys on headphones.
Okay, Google.
Let's not wake up all of our listeners' devices, certainly. So, Adrian, Kevin, thoughts on how can Google better control the security of add-ons through the Chrome web browser? I feel like this has been kind of an issue in our industry today.
I think it's going to be a continual issue, and it's why you've seen Chrome and to some extent Firefox also start to de-emphasize extensions. It's more challenging now within Chrome to even find extensions because of this issue. The Chrome is trying to become, and they have done so with their Chrome OS. The entire use of the operating system within the browser itself, its own walled garden. And these extensions are just little ways you can break out of that. And now the onus of responsibility is back on Google to make sure that extension isn't breaking out of that. And that's non-scalable, as we know. I mean, we're talking about 2 million installs for something that everyone is going to do. Everyone's going to look for an ad blocker. It's trivial to start recognizing what is bad or what is good. I mean, there's many good ad blockers out there, but if you search for uBlock, you search for AdBlock Pro, you're going to come up with all these fake results. And it's,
I think what they need to do is they need to take the Android Google Play App Store people and the Chrome Web Store people, buy them a bunch of pizza and some beer and lock them in a room together, because I feel like Google's already solved most of this problem on the Android side. They have a ton of experience dealing with crapware getting into the Google Play Store and stuff like that. And I just can't imagine that solving this problem in Google Chrome is going to be that different.
Can we lock the Google Play Store people, the Android Google Play Store people in a room with the Apple iOS people, and have them share ideas and be like, guys and gals, can we just solve this problem like once and for all?
I would argue that Google Play Store people don't do any review, and I think that's their thing, that they don't do any review.
They want to be more open, and that's hurt them.
No, there's definitely review. Like they have a whole. There's some information out there about it. It's not totally secret, but both Apple and Google have created, some pretty intense review. Like most of it's automated. It's like a special AV that just takes apart an APK, looks for shady stuff. And researchers can find ways around it and stuff like that, and they've pushed them on improving that. But there is a rather sophisticated system that analyzes any apps before they get put on the Play Store.
Now, it's interesting. I found this next article on the NSA and how it deals with zero-day attacks. And what I found, I think, really relates to enterprise security in a big way. And the quote from the article that I really liked was, said, the vast majority of the incidents that the NSA deals with aren't the latest and greatest APTs or cutting-edge zero days. 93% of all security incidents in the last year at the NSA were found to be entirely preventable using best practices they already advocated. Now, we can pick on the best practices
or
phrase, what is a best practice, as we've kind of poo-pooed the whole concept of what a best practice is. But I don't know. Working in this field for 20 or so years, right, I kind of feel the same way that I think the 93% number is pretty valid. Like 93% of the things that are out there
and I think
are stuff you can prevent.
And I think that best practices is not being a dumbass.
Yeah, right? Like it's common sense.
Yep. Maybe that's even 50%. Of not being a dumbass.
I think even having a practice, if it's not the best, as we picked apart this term, like having a practice to deal with an event covers about 90 to 93% of what's out there, and the really advanced attacks and zero-day attacks represent that, kind of 10 to 7%. Yep. I feel like that's pretty accurate if you believe what the NSA is telling you. That's a whole other debate.
If you're subject to somebody that is going to deliver a zero day to you, your detection needs to be significantly better.
Right.
But that's a thing you need to think about from your business model is like, oh, I'm a government contractor. Like 0 days a thing if you're someone that deals with financial.
I don't know though.
You're a 0 day vector. If you're...
I blame it on pen tests.
Oh, Adrian, expound.
See, Larry,
I was just trolling.
No, it's trolling. Now you need to expound on trolling.
No, he was just trolling. That's what he said.
I'm not a very good troll.
Okay.
It's Kevin?
Kevin.
I was just say I totally agree with Larry, what you're getting at, up until I would say last year, when now that we have the release of, say, supposed NSA exploits, now the shift has come back. I mean, the threat modeling of, if you're a government contractor, it makes sense to account for people who are using nation state exploits against you and not your mom and pop shop. But now these things are being released into the wild and being automated. And that entirely shifts away, although it's not going to be every attack. It's not going to be every time. WannaCry and NotPetya were incredibly successful because of the threat modeling of, an APT is not coming after me.
I think that.
Oh my God, Kevin, you just embodied a story that I had in here, and I don't know which one it is. But Cyber Reason, who at one time was sponsoring some of our shows here on Security Weekly, Israel Barak, who we have a great relationship with, has come on the show several times. They did basically a research study. They basically set up a fake financial company. So, I mean, you could call it a honeypot, but basically they're like, look, we're going to create a company. We're going to create assets for that company. We're going to create a public face for that company. We're going to make it really vulnerable by default in that our RDP is exposed to the internet, and domain admin credentials are going to be pretty easily guessable. I think I want to say they tried to get those credentials like put on the dark web. I don't know if they put them out there on purpose or they thought they would get out there, but let's just say even if they said, here are our passwords, here are the hashes, let's just seed them on the dark web and see who attacks us. Basically what happened was there wasn't anyone that could say that specifically targeted this fake financial company, but in an automated fashion, this company was attacked. They were compromised. There was they put all this fake data. So there was 4 gigabytes of data that were exfiltrated.
Yep.
They monitored the entire progress. and then the attackers never came back. And what they found was that most of the attacks, from their observation, were very much automated, as Kevin was saying. I mean, it basically backs up everything Kevin said. Like, if you were to do this in any capacity, and props to Cybereason for doing this and releasing the information, I think that's great. Like, basically stand up an organization, put it out there, make it somewhat easy for people to get in, put some data out there in an automated fashion. They found the IPs originated from Russia and Hong Kong, whatever. I mean, we can
wherever
attributions we know
attribution sucks.
Yeah, it's certainly nowhere close to 100%. But they said basically attackers exfiltrated data from this organization. Here's how they did it, and that just creating that organization led to this attack, and it was very automated. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yep. No, thinking about that, if I was going to do that, and where would I exfiltrate data to? It wouldn't be the U.S.
No.
Not at all. Because, well, the U.S.
Yeah.
Like, I'd find some VPS in Ukraine or Russia, and attribution is hard.
VPSs in Russia are a thing.
Yeah.
So our friend Bob, we haven't talked about our friend Bob in a long time. But
oh, man. But he's been deep. He's been
deep undercover for a long time.
The dogs, they're barking.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's a sad state of affairs when we have to create a fake company to get some breach information to figure out what goes on in breaches.
Right? We should know already.
Yep.
Well,
let's talk about it so they don't look bad.
Larry, more stories?
Let's see. A bunch of mine were weird. The big one that I wanted to point out is the password QC for Windows is a plugin from OpenWall to do password enforcement under Windows, above and beyond what the Windows Active Directory stuff does. So you can do so normal Active Directory says, complexity, yay, one upper, one lower, one special character, random crap. This plugin will in fact do a heck of a lot better for doing enforcement. And in fact, OpenWall is offering this to folks for basic support with massive domains, and for $386 a year.
So above and beyond what the
Windows does.
Password complexity requirements are.
Yeah, for Microsoft. You throw this DLL in, and we can do way better enforcement of password selection policies. For
if we're emphasizing like second factor and stuff like that, do we even care about more complex passwords at this point?
Well, this one is not second factor, but it is definitely on the password selection, like passphrase versus password. And yeah, I hate to say it for those shops that are smaller that can't do two-factor. $386 for long, complex passwords without two-factor is really good.
Yeah, but I'd argue on the side with Adrian, like you could do two-factor for pretty, like not
cheaper.
Yeah, like cheaper or not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, right. You can get a Google Authenticator, right? You could probably do that for free
with Windows.
Authy.
Can you do that with Windows?
Yeah.
Sure.
But now, what's the cost of the device to provide to people?
Their
phone.
Yeah, their phone they already have.
Phone.
Okay. I'm just throwing it out there for completeness. Okay.
Even Duo.
Duo is pretty good. YubiKey is pretty good if you want to buy a physical device for people. They're lower end.
$17.
Yeah.
For the little. I've got one here.
Oh, he's reaching.
I've got a whole keychain full of them. YubiKey is awesome. Yeah, the blue one. The blue one is their lower cost model that works with Facebook. I'm sure you could use that in a lot of other. it's pretty versatile. I also, on the password front, what's interesting, what I think doesn't get enough kind of airtime in our community is some of these newer startups. We interviewed one on Business Security Weekly, Larry, and if they basically look at the behavior of your phone. So they look at like
Unify ID is one of those.
Yeah, and there was another one, Adrian. I don't remember the name, but I really liked it along those same lines, right? Like they try and validate you as the user without a password. So what Wi-Fi networks are you connected to? What Bluetooth devices are you connected to? And if those are the same, then I'll authenticate you. If my shit detector...
Accelerometer input,
right?
Even
how you hold
like
your phone,
like Unify ID has all this stuff about like how you walk,
right? Yeah, and there. So of course the hacker and all of us is like, well, I can hack that and blah. And so if there's any deviations, they say, well, like you're not behaving the way you were in the past like month or whatever. So therefore, like do a two-factor authentication for me, or enter your password for me, or do some other kind of validation. I really think,
challenge.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the future of authentication, is that we're getting away from passwords, we're getting away from two-factor, and we're just looking at the behavior of users, and not so much like your behavior, like Larry goes to his office every day, and whatnot, but looking at how you hold your phone, what other devices you're connected to. Like my phone, for example, is typically connected to one of my cars because my car has a hotspot, and I'll connect to that hotspot. And if I'm not in range of that wireless
Bluetooth
network
audio
for a while, like
Ford Sync,
maybe that means
Bluetooth audio.
Maybe that means Paul is traveling, or maybe it means someone's trying to impersonate Paul, and they're not near Paul's vehicle because they haven't authenticated or paired that device to Paul's, GMC Yukon, which is one of my cars, right? Like,
and that said, I think that's totally disturbing that I get in my car Thursday about 4 p.m., 4:30 p.m., and I throw my iPhone in the holder, and I plug it in power, and it says, estimated time to arrival at Pizza Hut.
Yes.
Like, fuck. And Monday and Tuesday it says estimated time to mastering martial arts.
What's even scarier is you and Tori, who's our partner success specialist here at Security Weekly, pair it to Pizza Hut. When I get in my car, it tells me I'm going to 24 Quaker Lane, which is the address. Now, for those listeners that are listening, Pizza Hut is right next door. Like I could, from where I'm sitting right now, I could throw a rock and hit Pizza Hut. If there wasn't a wall there, if there was a window in this wall and it was open, I could throw a rock and hit Pizza Hut.
That said, you know where I park?
In Pizza Hut?
At Pizza Hut. I drive over the fucking grass and I pull into
dude,
and I pull into Pizza Hut.
It's freaky, right? Like when I get in my car in the morning, if I connect my phone and Android auto
I don't even
runs,
need to connect to the phone.
No, if I connect my phone, I have to connect my phone to do it. If I connect my phone, Android Auto automatically starts and it displays a screen in my car. It'll say your commute time is 12 to my commute time from my home. Now I'm telling everyone way too much about myself. My commute time is 12 to 14 minutes, right? Like if it's 11 minutes, like that's really good. If it's 14 minutes, I know like there might be some construction or a little bit of
South Bond
traffic.
Drive, right?
That's how far I live from the studio, and it's kind of scary. I agree, that's freaky, but it's information like that I think the newer companies are using to be able to authenticate you to your devices.
Well, I think the really interesting idea here is, they use terms like adaptive authentication and maybe even continuous authentication.
Oh boy. With the WAF.
But the idea is, instead of just being authenticated when you first log in, you're constantly being authenticated. Is what you're doing right now normal for you?
Right.
If maybe you do successfully authenticate, but then you start doing some really shady shit. And
US, India, India.
Give me an extra factor. I just want to make sure that you're you, because you don't normally download 80,000 credit reports.
But we poo-poo machine learning, right? But and we talk about it kind of in a negative light sometimes, because I think vendors kind of overstate it, of course, as we've observed in our marketplace today. But let's say that I had on my calendar that I was going to RSA this week, that Google would know that and go, oh, well, of course Paul's going to be in San Francisco, because on his calendar he said he was going to this conference and it was in San Francisco, and his flight itinerary was, on his calendar, and I can figure that out, and that's totally normal for Paul. I think that it's what we're saying is it's creepy, but also could also be useful in terms of authentication, as your story kind of. I want to talk about our off-topic story of the week.
Oh shit! Yes.
This one was just for our listeners. I use an app on my phone called Flipboard. You can subscribe to a lot of different topics. I'm not sure what topic I'm subscribed to that suggested this article. Again, this can go back to privacy and a lot of things we're talking about, right now. But
clearly, this article does not apply to you.
I like having some off-topic, articles on the show, and this one, the title caught my interest, and I was like, we got to cover this. Having big genitals can spell evolutionary disaster, say paleobiologist, and basically, for most animals,
Adrian's face says it all,
dude. The first sentence just. It captured it. Like, for most animals, survival is all about being good at getting laid. Like, just think about that for a second. But then they talk about in this article about how, from an evolution perspective, that if basically the species is all about reproduction as it relates to your genitalia, that they don't live as long because they're not taking into account some of these other factors. Like, the whole article blew my mind. I was like, what is going on? Silence.
Clearly,
no one wants to comment on that.
Clearly, Paul, you do not fit into the big genitalia market.
Pretty much. Yeah, not so much.
You and me both. It's not about the motion of the ocean. It's how many times you can make that.
Yeah. I mean, also, the line where it says, the size and shape of at least one species' genitals has spelled out disaster for longevity. And this species has spent too much time on reproduction and not about other factors as it relates to the species. And you got to go read this article. It's like a brain exercise for you. I'm telling you, you got to go read this article. Yes.
News of the weird. I didn't know you did news of the weird.
It is. This is news of the weird. They show that males with larger, elongated genitalia than females, they tend not to last as long on what is quoted as the fossil record. They have a higher rate of extinction.
Okay, my question is, somebody, just assuming this is academic research here, somebody submitted this, and this had to be approved by someone, and then somebody got a grant to do this, and there's a long process that occurred for someone to basically say that they wanted to study long dongs.
Yeah, dude, this is a legit scientific study. 93 species of ostracods that lived between 85 and 65 million years ago. This is a legit scientific study.
Did we cure cancer already? Did I miss something?
No.
Is there not something better to research?
Have not. This is a study that's comparing the size of your genitalia to how long your particular species has lived on this planet. Legit, this is a study, Adrian, that I felt it necessary to point out to our listeners that you should go read.
Big data.
Yes, it's all about
big data.
And big data.
Actually, funny thing here. I went to Jay Jacobs and Wade Baker's talk this morning, which analyzed the last 10 years of RSA talk titles and abstracts. So they take all the words and they analyze it, and they say, just showing up all the stuff you can kind of pull out of it, you can extract out of it. And one of them, they tagged different things, like, what's this about? Is this mobile security? Is this threat actors, what is it? And big data popped onto the scene, just a few years ago, but it's already gone. It's already died out. It's extinct.
So the difference between survival and annihilation was the size and shape of the male's genitalia. That's a scientific fact from the analysis of this study.
You're fucked.
Yeah.
So you're saying size is important.
Yes.
Basically, Adrian, your very astute analysis of this article is that size matters.
We finally have an answer.
Size matters.
Have an answer to
size
that
matters,
question.
but not
scientific answer.
The scientific answer is size matters, but not in the way that you thought.
Size matters. It doesn't say that whether it's big or small.
They're saying bigger is not better. Is basically what this article is saying.
There's hope yet, Paul.
There is hope for us, Larry. Yes. I thought it was a mind bender. A lot of my articles
because you were in the 1% that now you're
dude. We talked. Information security was a topic through and through. I tell you what, the articles I find that fall outside just bend my mind, dude. But
big data analytics, and you apply that to your information security program.
A lot of science in this article. One of the other articles that always sticks out of my mind is the U.S. Postal Service worker that is nicknamed the Sniffer.
What?
His nickname he got because he could sniff out marijuana in people's U.S. Postal Service's packages. So much so that when this individual, nicknamed the Sniffer, was arrested, guess how many pounds of marijuana were found at his home? Jason, I think you should know this answer.
What?
I'm a little worried as to why I
200.
should know this answer.
I think I covered this on Hack Naked News when you were on it, Jason. That's what I'm saying.
I say 200.
Oh, is that why I should know?
Yes.
Okay, well, that makes me feel a little better.
Yes.
I say 200.
No, pretty close. 60 pounds of marijuana.
Wow.
And another 10 pounds at his girlfriend's home, who were both arrested. I don't know if they were convicted or not. I would likely find that if federal authorities raid your home, they found 60 pounds of marijuana, you're going to jail because you stole those basically from people's packages and thought that this person could get away with it. Basically, if I see someone who was sending a package with marijuana in it, which is illegal to send in the Postal Service.
And if I swipe it, what are they going to do?
Call the cops?
Report it?
Right? And this person
so what are you saying? Like he got indicted and charged for stealing packages, but not for possession?
I think both, Adrian, would be my guess. I think he probably lost his job pretty quickly and was 60 pounds of marijuana. That means that so many things, right, you can glean from this article that I thought were interesting. First, so many people are mailing other people marijuana in via USPS.
And in those quantities?
Right. And secondly, if you're working at USPS, there are people that are taking the marijuana from that. And this can't be the only person who was doing that.
No.
This was just the person that got caught. And so, again, there are just some articles that I find that I'm just invoke a lot of thought and reflection. And having big genitalia was one of them, as well as stealing up to 60 pounds of marijuana.
Wow.
Yeah. So on that note, I mean that's what RSA smells like here. Is one of the two things.
60 pounds of genitalia.
Marijuana. 60 pounds of marijuana.
Marijuana
more than once today, I've found myself walking either right behind or right next to somebody smoking a giant spliff. And I'm thinking, oh, man, I don't want to show up to my next meeting smelling like this guy. That's going to – I don't want those questions.
It is kind of funny that RSA is in California where it is, very much legal. One of the most liberal states when it comes to that, pretty much in the U.S.
The alternative is showing up smelling like genitalia.
Well, the other smell is that's prominent here is urine, so it's I guess it's preferable.
Yeah.
Well, facts about RSA from Adrian.
It's more San Francisco. RSA smells better than the outside.
We didn't get those facts from Ron last week.
Oh boy,
Sanabria.
Adrian.
See, when you're not here, like you miss these little things, like the smells and the taste
and the sad part is
you don't get that from the photos.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Adrian.
Having been there, I can be there and smell the taste and been there.
Well, everyone, thank you very much. Adrian Sanabria, thank you very much for coming on this edition of Paul Security Weekly. Thank you to our regular hosts for appearing on this episode. Larry, take us out.
Over and